FromSoft know. They know if you're button bashing. They know if you're scuttling away to sort of hide in a corner to avoid damage. They know if you haven't taken the time to really explore or watch that boss attack pattern or enemy attack pattern. They know if you haven't got good. I am CouchQ, and this is my review of Zone of the Enders 6. This game was snubbed. I'm pretty sure snubbed by some of the major outlets for Game of the Year awards. It appeared in certain categories, but it just should have cleared up a lot more as far as I'm concerned. Let's just explore our performance and quality mode first of all. This game came out in August 2023 and it was released on 8th Gen. It's available on a PlayStation 4, can you believe? Starting in quality mode, things are not too bad. We're looking at some great ray tracing. This is a mech game, it's full of explosions. They've done a really good job on putting water around a lot of the cities, so there's a lot to look at here. FromSoftware have always handled the Armored Core IP, right back from 1997. Mech simulator games, or mech games, they sort of fall into two categories for me. That's why I put that intro on, because Zone of the Enders is more in the Fires of Rubicon camp, unlike something from the Mech Warrior series, which is trying really hard to be a simulator, quite a complicated one as well. First person views, you've got your consoles. It's been a game model that's existed since the consoles have had a bit of power. And the Japanese have always had a sort of affinity with these mech rig style battles, what with anime, Evangelion. Just Google top mech anime and Gundam's right at the top, deservedly. There is a ridiculous amount of cultural heritage there. That sort of brings me to one of my sort of first minor issues, and I'm sure this can be ironed out, and I'm probably looking in the completely wrong place, but I cannot switch the language to Japanese with British English subtitles. That one is one of the few bumps in the roads with this game. Everything else is 110%. Apart from, and we need to get it out of the way, hopefully we haven't got another Elden Ring situation here, but the quality mode on the base level PlayStation 5, not workable for me, unfortunately, because of the pace of the game, because you're not really worried about, shadows and reflections. It's all about smooth speed. Immediately felt the improvements on switching that out. One of the things I want to clearly stipulate is that this is not remotely or in any form a Souls game, but it does have some FromSoftware pearls of genius in it that you recognize from the series and from some of their most recent aforementioned games. So what is it then? I would bill it as an flying action ARPG. You have set missions, some of them have restart points, which is amazing. You have a loadout, you normally have a boss fight, you have objectives. The whole thing's very cool, feels extremely structured, like an awesome campaign should. You've also got a bit of story in there, you've got some intrigue with who you are, where you're from, who you're fighting even, so there's questions everywhere. And in true From fashion, the boss fights are pushed early doors and they're awesome. That is in performance mode. The quality is still sky high with the graphics, even with that switchover. Another section that's going to steal a ridiculous amount of your time from you is the customization just on the paint jobs and logos and things you can slap on to the mech without even switching out arms, legs, heads, you name it. I spent an unhealthy amount of time trying to recreate the sound wave color scheme from the Transformer. Turrican, you'll be there, just, yeah, it's It's a time pit, but other than the pretty colours, it's ridiculously detailed with what it feeds you on upgrades and the slots. So you've got 2 shoulders, 2 hands, and then your head, abdomen, and legs and arms can all be switched out for better gear. You can completely transform the way that your mech looks, and you've probably seen the tank setup and a lot of different variants on that cool robot, and dang is it a cool robot.
We got a corporate merc! All to us already. Bastard.
The mission briefings are not overly complicated. This is not an Ace Combat 7 situation. You're kind of mapped where you need to go, what you need to take out within real time on the level, but it's still nice to get some instruction, get some backstory, get a bit of lore on what's going on. And that was where some of that language complaint stemmed from. Loads of the enemy mechs say stuff to you, and there's female and male characters out there. Everyone's panicked that you've turned up. It's pretty cool hearing all of the terrified voices. Not a lot of frame drops there, and the game gets extremely busy. I do really enjoy the between boss stuff. That's basically what it all is. Dealing with smaller enemies, groups of flyers, installations. They have nailed that scale brilliantly. And because the tech is now caught up, trees break under your feet, you see buildings dissipate as you smash through them. We're definitely getting there now. You did see a very brief section of the photo mode. I haven't delved into it as much as I'd like to. I'm so obsessed playing the game that looking at it is taking a back seat. And I don't say that often. I'm also really enjoying the absolute massive lack of any hand holding. Any buy this, put this in this slot, green arrows everywhere. You have just got to work it out and test everything. There's arenas to do that in. Do very much enjoy that trial and error idea. Even a mid-level restart point will offer you the option to reassemble your mechs so that you can reapproach a problem or boss from a completely different angle. A couple of things took a while with me. First of which, the clicking of the R stick to get true lock. So you do have a cursor around an enemy anyway, but you can do that whole Souls focus just on that one individual, a focus button, if you will. The second, and I'm not on my own with this, I don't think, because I'm relatively new to this game, I'm really keen to get somewhere and get everything done and win all the time. I'm very tense on fights, and I'll accidentally click in R3, which will unhook me from the target, and I'll also accidentally click in L3. If you do that, you hurtle towards whatever you're focused at and lose all of your power and boost and just end up at a standstill. It's very difficult to become relaxed enough not to click those sticks in. I could rearrange the controls, but I don't like doing that. It has become second nature now, but at this stage I was struggling with it. The voiceover instructor here is saying leave that robot in the courtyard alone, but that's Souls language, isn't it, for have a go if you think you're hard enough. You've also got some early NPC help, which works incredibly well. They're flying around with you, their mechs look a little bit different, and they're also leaning into helping you with some of those front-end bosses. This should be done more. Maybe it comes up in later game. I felt that really worked. What also massively works with this game, and I mentioned this a little bit in that intro, is the AI programming, how tight it is when you're fighting everything. You cannot cheese anything. And this also goes for the NPC players. Watching everything interact with its surroundings is pretty amazing. As soon as you start getting into a routine of flying up and down and just standing over a missile and not really thinking firsthand about what's going on, you'll get slammed by something because you do need to be reactionary, dodging around and listening for those audio warnings for when a missile's coming at you or when you've run out of boost, which is the same as you've left the door open noise on some of my friends' cars, which is causing all manner of flashback trauma.
Confirmed. Strider leg compromised. It's going down.
Let's talk environmental change and what it offers us on terrain and the differences between each levels, because you can get a little grey blind with all those buildings. It's very cool on some of that desert stuff, and the arenas also switch out constantly. This massive guy is a level in himself. You use the boost to fly around externally and take out these little vulnerable spots. It's a big fight and it's stretched out over quite a long period, and the satisfaction of seeing it blown up over your shoulder, that one was pretty memorable. So up till now, I've reached no major skill wall with a boss or a level, and I'm thinking this just can't be right. It isn't. It's a purposely accessible front end, I think. The Juggernaut for me was the first sort of have you been listening section of the game. You do get an NPC player, but he goes off halfway through the fight to do some errands, some shopping or something, and then you're just left with this demonic box that you really do have to completely understand where they're going and what they're doing at all times. And there's a vulnerable spot at the back. You've got to be bang on it to get this fight done. It's very good, but it definitely teaches you what a hard lesson. I know there's some of you out there, maybe not the regulars, who are leaning forward to the keyboard now to type, "You know I first timed this, Coop, don't you?" Exclamation mark, tourist. And this was a key moment for me, seeing that NPC player sliding around in front of this boss, me slamming down on him, us teaming up. It felt absolutely amazing, and it's the first of loads of sections in this game where I've really had to just hit the pause button and say, this is incredible. This game is an incredible experience. Part of the game loop, which very much surprised me, is a stable economy. You can sell stuff and you can do arena missions that you unlock through that campaign. They're standalone, they're robots you have not seen or fought before, and they've got their own personalities and a monetary reward. It's amazing, and you can start bashing these things around, testing your equipment. I really thought this was an excellent section.
Target destroyed. This concludes F-rank evaluation. Well done.
So next up, it introduces you to cloaked enemies, and I didn't even spot it, but on the directional button you've got scan, and these things are not there. They move and also scrub their detection, so that you've got to be constantly looking for them. They can technically almost one-shot you. This was an angle I was not expecting, and you've got to kill 4 of them in a row, which is very FromSoftware. It's also your first look at electronic shields, and I didn't talk about the yellow bar, which is a bit Sekiro-like. You essentially can force enough damage on an enemy to stagger it, and then open a huge window to deliver loads of damage whilst they're on their ass, quite literally. It's a really cool thing to look out for, and when you start mucking around with weapon loadouts, you realise that some gear combinations hugely increase that yellow stagger bar window. You also have one yourself, so you need to watch out for your own mech coming to a standstill and leaving yourself massively open for damage. The next fight is another mech, which has basically got the same, if not better, abilities than yours. They're constantly taunting you. You have to sort of cheese them around the environment, stay aerial all the time, and they will come in close to try and get you with that beautiful melee swing, which does take a little bit of getting used to, and there is a charge build version of that sword. Most, if not all, of the fights coming up involve that yellow bar being integral to opening a damage window, and also the blue electricity shield. And this can be frustrating for some, I imagine, because if you don't keep hitting what you're fighting, the bar will deplete and your chance of getting actual damage within the fight disappears right in front of your eyes. Health replenish is also quite interesting. With the arena fights, you don't get any. You get 1 health bar, and so the tension is racked up. You have 3 as standard in main campaign. In end game, you may be able to increase that on an expansion. I'll be keen to hear if there is anything that gives you more than those skimpy 3 medipacks. Thankfully, the act of taking health, you are completely mobile during that period. This is not an Estus flask thing, so you can just snap it on when you're diving through the air towards another bullet. So I have been sort of saving some of the gush for this boss, particularly this point in the game. The cheeky sods put the restart point right at the start of the level. What I mean is you have to fight another boss before you get to this boss if you want to come out and start buying new gear or earning money out of the campaign.
I'll synchronize with your brainwaves and maintain contact to support you.
Haven't mentioned it up till now, but the music finally becomes extremely noticeable and empowering to what's going on here. You're also, by this point, completely within that muscle memory template for every single button on your pad. When to hit it, when not to hit it. I'm not clicking in those sticks anymore. How do I say this without sounding like a whiny little twat? I haven't had the best sort of 3 or 4 years out there in the old IRL. The channel's been one of the few sort of constants this last half a decade, and seeing it improve and growing it has really helped, and it all just slammed in during this boss fight. Vanquish is in this game. Housemarque's amazing bullet hell Returnal is in this game. FromSoft's attention to detail and quality of build is all over this game. They're like the Ferrari of video game developers now. That's suddenly dawned on me. It would be reasonable for an outsider to think that FromSoftware just make really difficult sword and sorcery games. So I had a little Matthew McConaughey Interstellar moment. Not embarrassed to admit it. I realised I still loved the industry deeply, and FromSoftware are truly masters at their craft. We're seeing huge AAA studios just completely lose the plot at the moment. Dive in with complete unadulterated confidence into thousands of gleaming bullets that are heading right towards you is just something you don't grow tired of, and this boss fight really demonstrates how magnificent that engine actually is. When you were first playing Elden Ring, that boss, when it first jumped over your head, when you had that focus on, that feeling is just all the time when you play Armored Core 6. This game's what I call a keeper, meaning it gets to go on my shelf, physical, never to be traded in ever. Other games from last year of that stature, Stellar Blade, Dragon's Dogma 2, Just, and of course Rise of the Ronin, all of which need to go back on the channel. Been loads of patches, quite a lot has changed with them. Black Myth Wukong, I can't do 2024's best game until I get hold of that, and there are pre-owned copies now on shelves, so yeah, I'll look to make a move towards the end of the month on that one. I have been Couch Coop, and me and Matthew McConaughey will see you down there.